Get ready for Netflix's gripping new medical drama, Pulse. Set in a cutting-edge Miami trauma center, third-year resident Dr. Danny Sims is unexpectedly thrust into a promotion when beloved chief resident Dr. Xander Phillips gets suspended. Then, with the emotional and physical stakes at their highest, a storm will push the hospital and its residents to their limits. Witness how life can change in a heartbeat when you're operating under pressure. Watch Pulse April 3rd, only on Netflix.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's tax season, and we're all a bit tired of numbers. But here's one you need to hear. $16.5 billion. That's how much the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud last year. Now here's a good number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it. Guaranteed. Save up to 40% your first year at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Last week was our first playoff game, and my plaque psoriasis was so itchy under all my gear. Sometimes just thinking about scratching could take me out of the moment. And then my doctor told me I could get clearer skin with a pill called Otezla.
Otezla apremilast is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months.
Okay, ready for the next game. Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Severe diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla. Call 1-844-4-OTEZLA or visit Otezla.com for prescribing info about cost, and more.
What's up, everybody? It's ImmaLetYouFinish, show number 220 on the Pantheon Podcast Network with your favorite host that you love to love, might love to yell at through wherever you listen to us, but you still love us anyway. Court and Amy, what's going on?
And, we've been on the air not even close to as much as Cory Booker has been talking.
Is he still talking?
He's still talking.
Did he stop?
No, I think he's going to go for 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
It's 7 o'clock, 7:19. It'll be 24 hours. And then he can go back to being in the pocket of Big Pharma. I mean,
Right.
Yay. I mean, whatever. I mean, it's great. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have a question for you. And I'm saying this, I'm not saying this sarcastically. Why does Saturday Night Live keep booking Morgan Wallen? He is not their demographic. He is not their demographic unless their demographic has suddenly changed. He has shown himself to be a pain in the ass from the jump. So he performed last week with the host was Mikey Madison. So poor Mikey Madison coming off this triumphant Cinderella Story Academy Award, and then she has to share the stage with this dickwad, who at the end of the show, for those of you who haven't watched Saturday Night Live, and how is that humanly possible? At the end of the show, they go, "Good night, everybody," and then everybody stands on stage and acts and hugs and kisses. Morgan Wallen leaned over, said something to her, and then just walked off.
On camera.
On camera, through the audience, and then posted, "I have to get back, going back to God's country," or something.
I'm so tired
like
of people. First of all, I'm tired of people using religion as this thing. I'm tired of people acting like only certain people love God and God's country is where. What does that mean? I live in Harlem.
Yeah.
This is God's country.
Hell yeah.
There are
I
4
would say
churches
that.
in a 1-block radius of me, 2 legendary ones, 2 blocks from me. What are you talking about? Like, what's God's country?
Brooklyn is literally called the borough of churches.
It's so.
Give me a break.
It's just dumb.
What's it got to do with anything? What has it got to do with anything? Like, you're on. If you're so. If the implication is you're so freaked out and repulsed about being among the queers, the Jews, the blacks, and the women's, then don't do the show. It's really simple. Do the grand op, not even the grand op, do the country music. It's just so like obnoxious. Like he's never seen the show and know that you're supposed to stand.
Well,
up
you know,
there.
he was disinvited from that time that he was invited, and maybe it was about that. But I'm like, you don't have to come. You sell a lot of records. You don't need TV to sell records. You got you have a new single that's top 10, a new album that's coming. It'll probably be number 1. You don't need it. But I'm so tired of everybody's energy and bringing all of that shit. It's like, stay the fuck home if you don't want to do something. And this whole thing, God's country, like everywhere's God's country. Relax. You don't have a fucking certificate that just says God likes us only. So everybody needs to fucking relax.
Well, what's also really funny is that he's in the music industry. Okay, he's acting like he's in some pious industry. I am guessing at some point in his life he has had to come to New York City to, I don't know, sign a deal, make some money.
Well, here's the thing. You know what kills me with all of them too? It's like, you don't have to do any of this.
None of it.
Even if you like to play music, you could be in a local band and playing on weekends and be happy. I am so tired of the miserable, But
it's not. It's miserable.
As you go to your private jet to go back to God's country.
It's not. He doesn't need. This is not an up and coming artist. Him being on Saturday Night Live is not going to help him sell any records. And he just ends up looking. I think we've established a long time ago that he's a little bitch. And I think that's been established from the very beginning of his career. And I just thought it was me. And I feel bad for I don't sit there and worry about the cast of Saturday Night Live. Trust me.
They'll be fine.
But I'm just saying it was an obnoxious move because I'm trying to think what would happen if one of them were on the stage at the Country Music Awards and pulled that kind of stunt. But anyway, screw him. All right. Good news. I don't like a biopic. I'm not a fan of a biopic. But I have to say that
there have been some good ones, though.
I know there have been, but as a whole, I think that Zendaya as Ronnie Sector sounds like it's going to be great.
Yeah,
and Ronnie Sector selected her.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, it was her choice. So what I'd like to know is, can Zendaya sing?
Yes, Zendaya has an album that, she was a Disney kid and she put out one album that's full of bops. It's a good album.
All right. I mean, because Ronnie Sector obviously is a very distinct. I mean, Zendaya, I think, is much taller than Ronnie Sector, but no one's going to be sitting
5 feet taller.
He's taller. All right. Zendaya's huge, but I just think, and maybe Lawrence, what's his name? Lawrence Roach. Law Roach. Yeah, maybe he can get the gig designing the costumes because he always makes her look incredible. So I think that's a good.
Listen, the job he does with her and Celine Dion, just like, come on,
phenomenal.
Give it to me. Give it to me.
There's also going to be a Beatles biopic, which
Well, no, 4 biopics.
But that's right. Well, it's going to be 4 separate about each one. I posted an article about it. The Beatles wish they looked that good. It's a very weird collection of people playing them. So Paul Mescal is playing John Lennon, and Paul Mescal can sing. I don't know who I know who Harris Dickinson is, but he's playing McCartney, or maybe the other way around. Barry Keoghan, is that how you pronounce his name? The Irish actor. He's playing Ringo. He's the only one who looks even remotely like any of them. And then Tom Holland, Zendaya's fiance, is playing George. It's just a weird, and it's Sam Mendes. So, I mean, there's nothing that we don't know about the Beatles that we need to know. It will be interesting if they focus in on the negative stuff, like about John Lennon being a horrible husband, first wife, or just it'll be interesting if they focus on the early stuff. I don't need to see a Beatles biopic.
Seemingly the way they're doing this, it's going to be each one of their life stories. So maybe we'll get their background and then
real story.
And it'll probably tie together in some way at some point.
Well, maybe it'll be the tie together will be when they meet. Like maybe it's like a sort of like before they were famous thing, though. that's limited.
How are
in
they
its
shooting? Are they
objective.
shooting them together and then kind of
I have
releasing
no
them
idea.
around the same time?
I mean, I hope so, because who wants to wait 4 years to watch, but it's
That's like
Sam
I'm glad.
Mendes.
It's like I'm glad we're getting a break from Wicked because there's a fucking part 2 coming, and by the end, I was so wicked out between Ariana and Cynthia's weird press run and all of that shit.
Yeah.
It's like, oh
Yeah.
god, please don't start up again anytime soon.
Right. Well, anyway, it'll be, I don't need a Beatles biopic. There have been several. No, take that back. Yeah, no, there have been several. There have been
Have
several
there?
Beatles. Yes, there was a biopic just about John Lennon with Aaron Taylor Johnson. There was a Brian Epstein biopic, I believe. But the point is that we shall see. I mean, they're good actors. They're all really good actors.
Mhm.
Paul Mescal is somewhere down the street from me right now, actually, at BAM performing. I have not
Oh,
seen him. He's doing Streetcar. I have not seen
okay.
him, unfortunately.
Mhm.
All right. So, in a shocking situation where a tour has been fucked up because of a visa that has nothing to do with Trump,
Mhm.
because that's the first thing I thought.
Mhm.
FKA Twigs has had to postpone her tour because her crew didn't fill out a form in time. So, as much as we'd love to blame Trump for
Mhm.
this, it seems that this is just plain old human error. But she is going to come. She just has to fill out the forms, right? I
They
mean, so
make it so
it's.
hard to tour, like especially overseas artists coming here. They make it so difficult.
But why is it difficult? She just has to fill out forms.
Yeah, but here's the thing: it's difficult because tickets were sold, and she canceled it a day before the shows was supposed to
Right.
start. So
Right.
that makes it difficult when people have bought tickets for something, and it's a day before Toronto, and it's like we're not coming.
Right.
Yeah,
it's a little weird that someone who has toured before would not have somebody keeping track of the visas. I think everybody's just so flipped out now about international artists and
hmm
visas and everything. But
hmm
luckily, it's not a political situation. It's not
No.
something where she's going to be shipped off to El Salvador for no good reason.
No.
Um, this is a really weird. Oh, I forgot to mention we have a guest tonight.
We
Shawn
do.
Setaro, columnist, reporter, writer, author of the book Dummy, the Tekashi 6ix9ine story. He's an old friend of ours, and he's going to be talking about criminality. So we'll save
Because
all
it
the
seems like everybody's had a mic in their hand, suddenly
everybody's.
has a fucking number with zeros and a hashtag in it.
Yeah, we'll be talking about the criminality with him because there's so much here. But speaking of criminality, Yolanda Saldivar.
Fuck that bitch. Let her rot.
Okay. The woman who killed Selena is not getting out. I don't think that was a surprise, though, was it?
Well, listen, one never knows. The fans were ready. All of the memes of fans getting ready, being like, I'm practicing karate and standing outside the prison. So if she does get out, we could fuck her up. It was like, I'm glad she's not getting out. Team Selena. I still love Selena. Selena is fucking amazing.
That was a good biopic.
Yeah, that was a good biopic.
Yeah.
Coal Miner's Daughter was a good biopic. Ray
No,
was a
but
good
I'm saying
biopic. Yeah.
But
Selena was a really good biopic. It was. Yeah, so I want to say she can come up again for parole in another 5 years.
okay. Rare that like the U.S. government punishes Mexicans killing Mexicans. Usually it's like they just punish Mexicans killing white people. So that's a blow for justice. But yeah, she's obviously mentally ill.
Mhm.
And so she is not getting out anytime. She's not getting out for at least another 5 years, right?
Mhm.
All right. Well, before we bring our wonderful guest in, we do have some good news, New Yorkers. Knicks are in the playoffs.
Knicks are in the playoffs.
I mean, that's all we'll just keep it at that. Knicks are in the playoffs.
Knicks are in the playoffs.
We'll just keep it at that, right?
Knicks are in the playoffs.
When does Brunson come back? This week? Next week?
We don't know. We don't know yet.
Oh, it's still indeterminate.
Mhm.
But Knicks are in the playoffs, and they have been winning without him, which is always a good thing. Though I gotta say, the other night I was watching the game. What was it? The Bucks Grizzlies game with the big fight.
Bucks.
How much did I miss my Dante DiVincenzo when I saw him just wailing on somebody?
Oh yeah.
I was like, "Oh, Dante, come back and beat somebody up for New York." You know, I love me some white. I love that Chris Mullen. Not an asshole. He's like if Bill Laimbeer wasn't an asshole, which I guess wouldn't make him Bill Laimbeer then, because Bill Laimbeer was an asshole. But I just love me some.
This is the
Dante.
upcoming title of my album.
if Bill Laimbeer wasn't an asshole. But where is Bill Laimbeer? Is he dead? I mean, not fun to be funny. You never hear about him anymore.
I don't think he's.
He probably owns a crypto company somewhere.
Or some shit, you know.
Yeah, he was one of those guys like, I don't have to play professional basketball because my father owns a small island. I'm just here to play for Duke. And then I'll play someplace else. Oh, I hated Bill Laimbeer with a passion. Oh my God, I hated Bill Laimbeer with a passion. Anyway, shall we introduce it's Shawn Setaro.
So let's take a break. And
we're going to take one break.
And we'll come right back with our guest and talk about everybody who's in prison. Because seemingly that list, every time I wake up, is longer and longer, including Sean Kingston and his mother. Because if you can't do crime with your mom, you know what I mean?
I mean, really. I mean, come on.
You and Lucian are late. Like my mom just died, so we can't knock over a bank. But you're the last hope on this podcast.
I'll work on it. Maybe I can get the grandson to do it.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Acura's all-new ADX, a compact SUV that isn't just built for one thing, it's precision crafted for everything. To escape the grind with available all-wheel drive. To go with your flow with available Google built-in.
Hey Google, turn it up.
Okay, turning up the volume. And crafted to be heard with an available Bang & Olufsen premium sound system. The all-new Acura ADX, crafted to match your energy. Acura, precision crafted performance.
Take your vibes and go, 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 go.
Google is a trademark of Google LLC.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
And we're back.
We're back. Shawn Setaro is a columnist, a journalist. You have all these ists at the end of your word. I like it. A reporter, which means he actually knows something about writing as opposed to, knuckleheads like me who just said, this record's really good. He writes for Complex. He wrote the book Dummy Boy about Tekashi. Still, what I love about that book is it made me care about Tekashi. So that is because honestly, I don't care about Tekashi. But you've been covering a lot of different sort of stuff. But lately, you have become the Clark Kent, not the DJ. No, that's wrong. Who's a good crime? Wait. Welcome to the show. Hi, Shawn.
Hey, hey, everyone. So happy to be back.
Are you a Knick fan? We were just talking about our Knicks.
I stopped following pro basketball decades ago. I'm sort of a Knick fan by proxy. My sister-in-law and her family are giant Knick fans, so sort of when around them.
Understood.
Okay, so since that's the answer, thank you. It was so great having you on, Shawn. Thank you so much for coming.
Bye.
It was so great. Okay, yeah. Shawn, why is everybody in prison?
That is a very big question.
Everybody.
I don't know if we have time for, but
can you solve our criminal justice problem and go?
Yeah, exactly. Well, look, I think, part of the answer, and I think what you guys were kind of hinting at before, is social media, honestly, right? Like this sort of continual and sort of the culture that goes along with it of self-promotion and all of this kind of stuff. I think that That has gotten a lot of people in trouble. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Big U case that happened the other day.
No.
Big U is a West Coast
I can't
sort
keep
of
up.
rap adjacent guy. He managed Nipsey Hussle briefly and Corrupt and a bunch of West Coast artists. And he had sort of built his whole brand as an industry guy on checking in, right? I don't know if you're familiar with this.
I know, yep.
Yeah. So he's like, I'm the guy.
Okay. So hi, middle-aged white woman here. Please explain.
Like when East Coast
it's not
rappers
like when I call my mother up and go, just checking in with you. Not that.
Right. Like Courtney says, basically, it's if you go to City X out of town, you've got to check in with some heavy hitter over there. Whether that means give them money, give a free verse to the artist they're working with, pay some other kind of fealty, whatever, right? So Big U, in sort of a wink and nod kind of way, has built his brand in recent years around this idea of checking in. He has a podcast called Checking In with Big U.
Oh, okay.
He talked about checking in on this podcast called Hip Hop Uncovered. Or sorry, not podcast, he talked about checking in this documentary series called Hip Hop Uncovered, has said in multiple outlets, like, you come to Los Angeles, you gotta like go through me or whatever. Right. And he was just arrested for a number of things, but among them were this idea, heavily weighing in the complaint was this idea of checking in, that basically he, sort of forced people to pay him, or if they didn't pay him, then sort of basically extorted them, right? Caused the kind of trouble.
It sounds like extortion. I mean,
caused the kind of trouble he was supposed to ostensibly protect them from. So that played pretty heavily into this case that just came up a little while ago. So that very much plays into this idea of like, he had a career by sort of, building up this reputation and sort of winking and nodding at it. But at the same time, the criminal complaint charges actual crimes, but it also mentions, hey, he talked about this on this documentary. He had this podcast. Here's the theme song to his podcast says, if you want to, go to LA, you got to see me. So like, he was very much playing with fire, I think.
Are they federal charges?
They are federal charges, yes.
Oh, Lord.
Is it like a RICO thing, or is it just like a regular federal charge?
No, it's a bunch of people. So it's like a, sort of, I forget if it's actually racketeering. I'd have to look at the charges, but it's a large sort of multi-person gang case, basically.
Lovely. What's with the rappers and the racketeering? They love the racketeering, the rappers. It's all right. So I guess there's so many cases to talk about. We mentioned Sean Kingston. We'll get back to him, but let's talk about the Sean,
the big
other
one.
Than
yes.
you. I mean, you're the biggest. You're the most important Sean, but you're the good Sean. You're good Sean. That Puffy guy. So you have been attending the hearings, and
I've been to a bunch of the hearings. Yep.
All right.
So what's the latest? Because he's had lawyers that have dropped off the case. Like, what is going on? And why do you think he has not gotten bail?
I mean, this is not some mystery why he hasn't gotten bail. Basically, like, there were a number of hearings about this. He had 3, or depending on how you count it, 3 or 4 sort of separate tries in front of a number of different judges. To get bail, and it didn't happen. And basically, it was a mix of, he has so much money he could easily run, even if he sold his private plane, which he, promised he would do. And he also has a record of contacting potential witnesses, right? Sometimes dozens and dozens of times in very short periods. And that can very easily
work against you.
The bar is pretty low to convince a judge that that's witness intimidation, right? So at least at this stage. So those are, I would say, some of the main reasons why he didn't get out. And at a certain point, his lawyers just kind of gave up the ghost on that because once the judges stopped kind of switching around and they settled on this one guy, Subramanian, I don't think my guess is, and this is just my analysis, they sort of didn't want to piss him off by continually asking for bail and basically saying, hey, we think you decided this wrong.
Right.
Because they're going to need him on his side for the trial, right? And for all of the other million little decisions that have to be made.
Is this going to be a jury trial or is it going to be a bench trial?
It is going to be a jury trial. There has been a ton of back and forth already.
In New York.
In New York.
But anywhere, let's be fair. He's an international, but in New York. Wow. I mean, where are they going to... Wow. Okay.
Right.
That'll be interesting.
So there has already been a ton of back and forth and continues to be about jury selection, right? Stuff like, are the names of the jury members going to remain anonymous the whole time?
Oh, they have
They're trying to figure that out right now. Stuff like, okay, well, when they question the jury, right, you get hundreds of people in a room, ask them a bunch of questions. Right now, the deal is every person who gets asked a question is going to be in a separate little room so that the jurors don't sort of hear each other's answers and get influenced, right?
Is that standard operating for a high-level trial? Is this really unusual?
It happens sometimes on high-level trials, but it's not.
Sometimes.
It's not that common. Yeah. So
So first off, he looks like. Talk about what he looks like, because we've read he looks. Come on, let's get petty. Go.
It was shocking. So I went to a hearing a few months ago, and he looked more or less like I remembered him. And you're 20, 30 feet back on the other side of the room. It's not, you're not, 10 inches away from him. But he looked more or less as I, remembered him. And then this most recent hearing that I saw him at just last month, white hair, white beard.
Wow.
It was.
They can't sneak the Began dye into into prison, I guess, right?
Right. It was a noticeable difference, and like I'd seen. I was actually wondering if something like that would happen because in the Tekashi case, when he got arrested, he had multicolored hair, and by the time of the 5 months down the line, as the hearings went on, it was just his sort of normal, mouse brown or whatever, right? So I was aware that sort of thing does happen, but I just it was so dramatic just because there was a long time between hearings. So it seemed as if it happened instantly to me.
And am I a fool for thinking, because I felt like that there would be some deal made in this case, that he would not want a trial. I'm just thinking about the amount of witnesses and people are going to get on the stand and the shit that they're going to say is does he want that?
Well, here's my thinking about this, right? And again, all my interpretation, this is just based on seeing cases. This is not a fact, but most people who plead, right, they do it because there's someone above them in the food chain that they can sort of give information about. Mm-hmm. In this case, the way this case is set up, there's no one above Diddy, right? He's the one who allegedly ran the organization, who's, did a bunch of things allegedly, including sex trafficking and all of this other stuff, right? So who can he tell on to get a deal? There's sort of no deal to be had.
Right.
So all he would be pleading to is probably a significant amount of prison time. And so, in that case, why not roll the dice if he feels like he has a not insignificant chance of winning?
I mean, it would seem at this point, we've talked about this before with him, that there is no lack of ill will towards him. Very few people when he was arrested came out, even with Russell Simmons. Russell wasn't arrested, obviously, but even with Russell, people came out and were defending him or saying this couldn't be. There was crickets when Puffy came out, and everybody, it just seemed to be a steamroll effect. Now, I know that some of the charges were just dropped. Wasn't there a guy that was bringing charges against him and those were dropped? Or is that
there are a ton of civil suits, right? Dozens and dozens of them. So, some have, I haven't been following every single one of them, but yeah, like you said, some of them have been dropped. Some are sort of in process of maybe getting whittled down. Some are just kind of continuing. None of them will go anywhere significant until after the criminal case, right? That is usually how it goes, because you don't want a jury to hear, well, he's already been held liable, before a criminal case, right? So, but yeah, so there have been ups and downs in some of the civil cases, and obviously his attorneys are sort of doing what they can to portray all of this stuff as money grabs, both to the judge and to, the wider public of presumably prospective jurors.
But he does have a history, especially with the Shine case it was a long time ago, but, he is not above asking someone to take the fall for them. Do you see, these charges are obviously so much more egregious and repulsive than the charges in the Shine case. But, it's not out of his wheelhouse to get someone to take the fall for him.
Sure, but again, the way these charges are set up, basically the feds are saying there is this organization, right? And this organization is set up to cater to Diddy's whims, which include this and this and this and this. And so sort of there's, like I said, there's nowhere to go, right? If the entire organization is set up, allegedly by him to, do what he wants, there's sort of no room to be like, no, well, I actually set it up to do what someone else wants.
Right.
But here's the part that's crazy about it to me, because we're talking about a May trial, which is coming up. Mm-hmm. You know that there's going to be a list, a parade of prosecution witnesses that are former employees. They probably have some of the sex workers who are going to come out. This is going
definitely
to be
at least one, I would say. It seems to be.
This is going to be, even if he wins, there's no winning for him.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Because everything that's going to be exposed is going to be no winning.
Well,
how
they're trying to spin it, right? His team is, sure, you might not like how this stuff looks. You might not like, sex with a female partner and a male sex worker. You might not like, sort of any of the other. They haven't gotten super specific yet because, a lot of the evidence is still sort of is still sort of attorney's eyes only at this point. But the general thing is, you might not like this. It might not look great to you, Joe Public, but it was all consensual. So that, I think, is the thing they are going to lean on if he is acquitted, right? Is like, you may not love what he did, but, no one got hurt. Everyone knew what they were doing.
Well, someone did get hurt. How about the Cassie? Is the Cassie tape going to be allowed in?
His team is trying very, very hard to do everything it can to get that tape thrown out, cast doubt on it, whatever. They're saying the version that the TV news showed was edited. They're whatever. Like there are sort of a whole bunch of ways they're saying like, oh, we don't necessarily know where it came from. And, the government says, well, sure, they're saying like, oh, CNN had the original and they deleted it. There must be something nefarious there. All of this kind of stuff. His team is trying any number of ways to get that tape out of the way.
Does Cassie show up as a witness in this trial? Now she's a pregnant lady getting up there talking about how she is to be beat is not a great visual.
So I would say that is very likely. There have not been a ton of victims named yet in the, no one by name, but there haven't been even a ton of victims mentioned in the paperwork so far. One of them definitely is Cassie. You can just sort of tell by the details. Mm-hmm. But I think that it's going to get pretty nasty because, sorry, let me look this up for 1 second. 1 minute. Sorry about that. So the last hearing I went to, there was a tiny detail that, to my knowledge, no one else picked up on, but I thought was very interesting, which is at the very end of the last hearing, at the end of last month, Diddy's lawyer said, hey, we just got a whole bunch of medical records of someone, including prescription medication. And so one thing we're going to do at trial is to call a pharmacology expert to show, like, and they didn't say why, they did something about prescription medicine. And like, they didn't say whose prescription drug records they got, but you can probably, you know what I mean? Like,
aren't there HIPAA laws against that kind of thing though?
I mean, not if it ends up in your I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll see. But, you know, not if it sort of mysteriously ends up in your hands. So, like, I don't think they were talking about their own client, right? It's what I sort of, again, my guess, just a guess, is that this is Cassie and they're going to try to say she was something out of it on drugs, being prescribed all kinds of stuff, didn't know up from down.
If I were living with a man that was beating the crap out of me, I'd be out of it on drugs too. I mean, come on. I mean, you could see pictures of the woman during that time. As someone who has been out of it on drugs at times in her life, she looks terrified in every picture. So I would be maybe a little numb as well. I'm sure they're going to, I mean, I'm joking around, but I'm sure they're going to smear her. Of course they're going to.
Well, listen, they're going to try to smear everything because this is going to be ugly and it's going to be nasty. So what they're going to have to try to do is discredit every witness that comes on that stand.
Sure. Everyone wants money. Everyone at the time was working for him and knew what they were doing. And now because the winds have changed, you know, they want a money grab.
How about that assistant of his, the woman they keep, Charisma, is that her name? There's a woman with a K. There's some assistant of his that runs like the operation with him. I don't know. I watched the documentary.
I am not sure about that. That name has not as yet come up. We're not quite.
She's his right hand woman, and she's now spoken out saying completely distancing. She has an unusual name, and I can't think of what it is.
I mean, we have not yet gotten to the stage where the witness lists are public. Although, you know, court, like you said, the trial's coming up. Like, jury selection starts in just over a month, and they are anticipating that the trial will actually get started on May 12th.
Wow, right before my birthday. Whee!
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Maybe Eric Adams can make an appearance. Do you who would you just guesstimate? Who do you think they are going to call? We're thinking Cassie, but anybody else?
You know, that's a very good question. I feel like a lot of they've been trying to keep their distance from the civil suits so far in the paperwork and in the charges. So I don't necessarily see them calling someone like, say, Lil Rod, right? This producer who worked on the Love album and sued Diddy and claimed all kinds of stuff.
And all of his stuff was just tossed, I wasn't he the one whose stuff
I think
was
a lot of,
that's what I was talking about.
I think a lot of his, he had, and I think they are going to try to stay away from some of the more sort of infamous civil suit stuff. So I don't know if some of those people will be chosen as witnesses or not. It's a good question. It's hard to really get a sense of it so far. At least I don't really have a good sense so far. I know that the potential length of the trial keeps increasing. Like, early in the process, they said, it'll take a month. And now they're saying, it'll take 2 months.
Do you plan to attend every day?
We'll see. I don't know. Still trying to work it out with, media outlets out and about to see how that works out. So
is it going to be in Brooklyn or Manhattan? The case.
It's going to be in Manhattan. It'll be it'll
on Center Street.
Everything so far has been at 500 Pearl Street.
Okay.
Yeah, which is right there, right off Center Street.
It's going to be a circus outside.
It's going to be a circus.
It's going to be
a complete circus.
Media from all over the world, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, already for the court hearings, for the hearings, which I don't know how much you guys know about this stuff, but they're pretty boring. Like, they're very, like, deciding tiny issues. Some hearings that I go to, I can't even write about because all they basically do is set the date for the next hearing. Even those have, not giant lines, but you still have to get there, an hour early to make sure you get a seat and all this kind of stuff. So for the actual trial, I'm sure it'll be comparable to, other big stuff they've had in that courtroom. One of the Trump trials was
it's going to be
down
like
the street.
It's going to be
Sam
like the
Bankman-Fried
trial.
was in that building.
I mean, it's going to be. But the thing that's so crazy with Diddy, I mean, like I was saying about the ill will, I mean, if they want to call people to talk to his character, you could talk to any of the producers he ripped off. You could talk to Shawn. I mean, that's the problem. There's so many his alleged deviant behavior aside, he's not a well-liked person, and he's already got such a terrible persona. I mean, as bad, when these alleged charges came up against Jay and they were dropped, I don't think people have the same kind of animus towards Jay as they do towards Puffy. And that's Puffy's fault. I mean, it's, he doesn't share his toys in the same way that Jay has figured out to be more media, Yeah,
and you'll notice Jay ran very far away from Puff in that case. They were both named in the same lawsuit. I was actually at the press conference Jay's lawyer gave, where he said, "Oh, they're just industry friends. They're in some pictures together.
He
they're
did
not
try
really
to act
tight
like
that."
He's like, they don't know each other. What do you mean?
I don't know her. I don't know her.
Right.
Well, Jay has managed to get himself out of many illegal situation, whether he was innocent to begin with or whether he just has better lawyers or a better persona. He really, I mean, it doesn't hurt that he's married to someone that everybody loves too. And that Puffy, I don't know. I mean, I was joking around with Courtney, like right before the inauguration, right after the inauguration or something like that, when I was like everybody completely depressed. And I was like, oh my God, the world is coming to an end. I know, I'll watch the Puffy documentary. That'll give me a little boost. And I was I was literally ready to slit my throat by the second episode because I met the guy once or twice. I've heard all the stories, but there's something so in he doesn't seem like a nice person. and chaos seems to follow him. I mean, I'm so glad that they in that documentary, and I'm sure they'll bring up the CCNY stuff. I think they're going to show all of these acts of sort of depraved indifference,
when I interviewed Nice and Smooth years ago for my old podcast, I even forget how we got on the topic, but I thought like, oh, Nice and Smooth, light, fun conversation. They rap about like fun nursery rhyme stuff or whatever. And somehow or other, we ended up getting on the topic of that City College game. And they gave me just this horrific blow by blow account because they were there of what happened and seeing, the bodies afterwards and all this kind of stuff. Like, and they had lost, I think, a friend somewhere in that.
I knew people who were at that party. That was way back in the day. And I knew people who could not get in, who were outside, and just the chaos of that was really, really nuts. And what I do think, Amy, I think they might bring that stuff up. There's a bunch of things they could bring up because he's going to go for the people's character and vice versa. The prosecution is going to go to his character. And there's so many things from you could talk about his violence. I think they'll bring up the Steve Stout situation. Sure. Because if you're going to start talking about character stuff and this guy says, I don't like to fight, but then you will see throughout history, there's a lot of there.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I will say, I will say, by the way, I think there is I would say there's next to no chance that he testifies, of course. Like, as you guys know, with a lot of these cases,
he's not getting if I was his lawyer, I'd be like, you're not getting on that stand.
He doesn't write rhymes. He writes checks, after all. So what would he say?
Right. So, but Courtney, you mentioned the lawyer who left, right? Mm-hmm. And 1 second.
Is that criminal lawyer Alex Spiro? He's the only I know.
That's Jay's lawyer.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's Jay's lawyer. So, basically, originally, Diddy had like 3 lawyers, and you could very much tell sort of why he got each of them, right? Mm-hmm. He got Mark Agnifilo, who's his lead lawyer, which is basically like he couldn't get, for one reason or another, I don't exactly know why, the lawyer he'd had for, years and years, who's basically like a surrogate uncle or whatever. So he got that guy's protege, basically. So the guy he really trusts. That guy had been working for years with Tenny Garagos. I forget the daughter of Mark Garagos, the celeb lawyer. Mark Garagos, yeah. His daughter, right, had worked with Agnifilo for a while. So she came on. You need a woman on the team, right? Because you're going to be talking to all these victims, and jurors don't want to see a guy berating a woman, right? So you kind of need a woman for that. And then they had Anthony Rico, who is the one who left. And he is, he's sort of I think a little older than Diddy, black guy, very sort of like bow tie wearing, and had handled a bunch of very controversial people. He'd been involved in the first World Trade Center bombing case, not the Osama bin Laden one, the original one.
Oh, the first one in 93.
The OG, yeah. Yeah. He'd been involved in that case. He'd defended a somewhat notorious policeman who was accused of murder and stuff. And who was actually... who actually in the Sean Bell case, he defended the guy accused of killing Sean Bell.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right. So, black guy. And obviously one of the things that Diddy's team has argued over and over again is this prosecution is racist, right? You're only going after him because he's a successful black man. They've one of the sex trafficking charges. They're basically saying, look, you've never charged a white person with this. They are really sort of leaning heavily into that kind of rhetoric, both publicly in their public pronouncements and in the legal, and in stuff they're saying to the judge. But Rico was the one that left. Not exactly sure why. TMZ talked about, there's sort of differences in how they wanted to go about, presenting the case. And, so it's somewhat unclear. Rico obviously isn't saying anything. He's just says, irreconcilable, differences in approach. They've since brought on a few other people. The main one is Alexandra Shapiro, who originally was there just to handle appeals court stuff. She's an expert in appeals courts, but she once they gave up on the bail appeal, right? She just sort of joined the rest of the regular team. So
there's no way this trial's going to last a month. Jesus Christ! I mean, come on. I mean, just
he has 3 main lawyers, a few others who are around, secondary sort of people, but the 3 main are Shapiro and Agnifilo, and then the Tenny Garagos, who last I checked was still on TikTok, so you can follow her.
You know what's weird? You know what's weird to me about this case is they're saying all of these things, but he's being kept in jail because they say that he reaches out to potential witnesses, or that could be considered witness intimidation. I don't think that helps when you're trying to convince people that he's a certain kind of person, where it's like, well, we kept him in here because we didn't want him getting to witnesses that were going to be, testifying against him. So he seems like he has a super team of lawyers, but public perception, you can say a lot of different things. But when you start getting a bunch of people on the stand saying bad shit, doesn't matter if it's true or not. After a while, it's like you can try to berate them and break them down. I just don't. First of all, I feel bad for everyone involved because it's a mess. And it feels like, I just have this feeling that some kind of deal is going to come down this pike, either right before this trial starts, or if the prosecution goes first and people start getting on the stand and saying crazy shit, we're not going to see this go to a jury. That's just my gut feeling.
I mean, stranger things have happened, right? It's definitely, it's definitely possible. It's funny you talk about settlement. One legal case that actually, no one will be in jail for, but doesn't look like it's going to settle anytime soon is the Drake and Universal Music case. Which actually I will hopefully, if my schedule works out, be going to a hearing for tomorrow.
Oh, yay. Here or in LA?
Here. Here. He's
that offended. First of all, because of what happened on a diss track, like if we're starting this precedent that you can now sue the people who put out a diss track, it's like, what does that even say? Like,
Universal's got to get you as a witness.
Cool D has to get into court right now.
Believe it or not, guys, that is actually what Universal Music Group is arguing. And they are basically saying, Judge, you got to drop this case now. Don't take it to trial. Just end it now. This is ridiculous. And a good part of what they're saying, they just unleashed this, 30-something page argument. And basically it starts by saying, look, this was a rap battle, and rap battles are all about throwing exaggerated insults back and forth at each other.
Right.
That's what it's been from the beginning. No one is taking these songs as a statement of fact. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's cartoon violence, right?
And lest we forget, Drake participated in this battle too, and he's participated in a bunch of other rap battles, saying comparable stuff, including Kendrick, you beat your wife, Kendrick, your kid isn't yours, right? All this stuff. So what are we really talking about here? This is Universal's position as to why the case should be dropped, and they wrote a real that little document. A lot of people who don't normally would never read a 32-page briefing actually read it because that was sort of the thrust of the argument, and they found it pretty entertaining and pretty interesting.
When we take over Canada, I don't want Drake to be part of the deal. He needs to stay in Canada.
He can go to Greenland.
He can go to Greenland. Yes, he can go to Greenland, and he can call people Yeah, I mean, that whole thing. I mean, God, we could, just for that have you. But I really honestly look, I would love to see Puffy convicted on so many reasons, for so many things, for so many reasons. And I don't know anything about the law. I always joke, I just know whatever I watch on crime shows and stuff. But it just seems like overwhelming evidence. You don't go after somebody this big unless you really do have the goods. And I think it would be very hard for him. The racism of the American judicial system, not discounting, it would be very hard to say that this was targeting him because of who he was. I just think that there's just stuff has been going on for too long with him, and it's almost like the chickens have finally come home to roost with him. Yeah,
I mean, we'll see. It's a very interesting case. It's a little too early for me anyway to have any confidence to say how it's going to turn out.
Yeah, I don't feel like we know we don't know who's going to get on the stand.
I wanted to.
And the truth of the matter is, he can say that people participated and been around. Cassie was with him for a lot of years. So there's a lot of back and forth. I just think it's going to be really ugly.
It's going to be very ugly.
Really, really ugly. And there's going to be no winners in it at the end. They just won't.
No, it's going to be very ugly. It's going to make the Epstein trials look like, a day at the beach. It's going to be, because it's got all these levels that make for great tabloid and but it is going to be a hot mess.
And the truth of the matter is, if they have tapes, who else is in them? Who famous has been around like this? It's going to be salacious stuff. Like Sean Kingston and his mother. Now, can you explain? So wire fraud, they were defrauding all of these companies. There was a luxury car company. I thought there was a furniture. There was all of this stuff. I'm like, what happened here?
Yeah, I looked at this a little bit when it happened. When it sort of initially went down. I'm not the biggest expert on it.
You don't keep up with Sean Kingston's illustrious one-hit career,
right? But
you're all Sean. All Sean. This is an all Sean show.
I know it's an all Sean. It's an all Sean.
All Sean show.
It's an all Sean show. Yeah. No, I mean it's there are an awful lot of scammers in the world, and being famous doesn't dissuade you from that. And in fact, like, if you feel pressure, whether internal or external, to live a lifestyle of conspicuous consumption or whatever, like, that can very quickly lead to all kinds of scams. I think you saw that in, oh my gosh, I don't want to get the name wrong, but I think, hold on.
Praz?
No, it was, there were, yes, Praz for one, certainly.
Yeah.
Is he in prison yet?
I think last I checked, was still waiting for sentencing, but I'm not 100% positive about that.
He's going, but he's also angling for a pardon from
yes,
Trump.
He is definitely angling for a Trump pardon. Remember, Trump did a voicemail skit for him on his solo album.
I know.
Right? So,
superstar.
Yeah.
God. Oh my God, the world sucks.
I honestly, Praz really is a nice guy too. It's like the nicest guy.
Says who?
Says me, who worked. I said he's a very nice guy. Worked with him for a lot of years with the Fugees at Columbia, and he was always a nice guy. Always.
Well, he is nice. I just could never figure out what he did in the group.
Okay, that's two different things. That's different than somebody being a nice guy.
Yeah. By the way, the scam I was thinking of was G Herbo from Chicago.
Yeah.
Right. So being a successful rapper doesn't mean you can't steal people's credit card numbers, So,
I mean, why not? You never
know.
So you never know.
Doomed. We are doomed.
No, I mean, there's recoupables, Sean. There's recoupables, and you need to get that money. And there's so many we could just, we could. Oh my God, there's just criminals in there. I think it's just because it goes on in all industries. It's just that these are a little more. It's that they're pulling RICO stuff. But yeah, I think that this Puffy trial is going to be an absolute nightmare.
Yes, it will.
Absolute nightmare.
And you have to come back on the show when the trial is over so we can do a full recap, because I have a feeling you're going to be there, and I need you to be like, this happened on this day, and it was nuts.
Oh my God. Yeah. I want to know how many outfits his mom is going to wear too.
His mom's a character. I've seen her a couple of times.
She's a piece of work, that one. Crazy quote. We usually wrap things up talking about music. Go figure. Anything you're listening to these days that you really like, other than the sound of Puffy crying on the stand?
Right. Oh my goodness. You caught me at a hard time. I would say no problem. I would say like a ton. I actually just the other day ended up looking backwards a little bit, because I don't know if you guys remember, I had a podcast called The Cypher for a long time. Yep. And my producer, Josh, his daughter is now, she was a little kid when we were doing the show, and now she's a teenager. And so she, started getting into rap, and somehow via Doom started getting into, the algorithm showed her OC, who she really liked. So I was like, I'll make you a best of DITC playlist. So the past few days have been like, which Showbiz and AG songs would a 17-year-old really like? Answer's probably none of them, but I'm going to try anyway,
Why not? Court, what have you been listening to?
Nothing.
Oh, cool. I have a confession to make that I can make among friends. I realized the other day, until I played it 3 times in a row, I always thought I had heard Auntie by Rihanna. Mm-hmm. I always assumed I had heard it.
Sure.
So I was like, well, I was writing about music all the time. I must have heard it. And then I went, you've never actually listened to this record. You've listened to the hits. Mm-hmm. You've never actually sat down and listened to this record. And holy moly guacamole, it's an amazing record. Where was I? What was happening in my life that I forgot about this massive record. And
from
it just
9 years ago.
From 9 years ago. Well, and it just once again reminded me that she's the coolest woman in the whole world. And but it was just so funny. I really thought I had heard it.
And with that, I'm going to end it right here because honestly, the fact that you are just like, oh my God, Rihanna from 62 years ago. I was like,
oh, I thought I had heard it. I really honestly thought I thought, Shawn, you can help me out here. You're like, you review records. You're like, did I review this? Did I did? And then I was like,
I've
sure. Never actually listened to. I forgot.
I don't really play Rihanna albums, even when they come out. I have to be honest with you. I think she's cool. I think the singles are cool. I have friends who are obsessed with her. I'm not obsessed with her like that. So
I love her. I love her.
I love the idea of her. I don't really care about her music as much, but I think she's nice.
So you're not holding your breath for whatever this next album,
it's going to come. She doesn't need to put a record out. She has adorable children and a cute husband and makes more money than God by just being
sometimes
her.
When it's been such a long time in between records, it's always like it feels like a bit of a letdown when a person does come, because it's like it's going to be the thing that some people want, it's going to be the thing that some people don't
but
want.
it's not going to be like, it's not going to like bring world peace or whatever, right?
No.
And if you've waited that long,
I don't think anybody's record is going to bring world peace. I think
Madonna's new record will bring world peace.
Yes.
She worked with Stuart Price again, and so if she comes out with a return to form Madonna dance album, that would make me very happy.
How are you feeling about the biopic?
I don't think it's ever going to happen.
You think she'll just find ways to sabotage it?
Yeah.
Well, now the fact that she's written it and she wants to direct it and do all of the things, it's like
no.
That's
no. Madonna has never proven herself to be a particularly good screenwriter or director, so I don't. Yeah, we were just talking about the Zendaya Ronnie Sector. That could be really good, depending on who's directing and who's writing it. Obviously, I think that, but yeah, well,
who's gonna cameo as Cher, as like little teenage Cher?
Oh, right.
She was in all those sessions. I know.
Yeah. I just read her memoir.
Yeah.
Now that's a biopic I would pay to see. A Cher biopic
in 2 parts, like Wicked. It'll be great.
I was about to say, Cher has so much life, though. Like it would almost need to be a Netflix.
She's having
Netflix,
a Cher
something
to
where it would be like a couple of episodes, because you'd have to go through so many different eras.
Well,
of
Courtney,
Cher.
I don't even know if you know, but the memoir is in 2 parts. The memoir ends right around Greg Allman time.
But didn't she say? But didn't she say she hasn't even finished writing the second part yet?
Well, because she's too busy.
Where do you stop?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, where do you stop? She's literally doing everything. She's more active now than she's been in years, and she's in love, and that's a whole other. But no, that book was so great. I love that book. So much.
Book was great.
That book. Someone was saying,
it was better than Barbara's. I really wanted Barbara's to be great, and it took me 9 years to read it because it was like 1,000 pages, and it was fine. It was fine.
But Cher is a much more interesting person than Barbra Streisand, fundamentally. I mean, she really is. I mean, Barbra Streisand, whatever. But Cher has had a much more interesting life than Barbra Streisand.
I mean,
Barbra Streisand has never woken up and not known where she is.
Right. I did love the Barbara book, but I understand if you didn't want to read 500 pages of like how Yentl should have been done differently or whatever.
Right.
And listen, I love Barbara, and I didn't hate the book. I was just like, okay, it felt very like, if the overarching theme was Barbara. A lot of, I told them this is how it should be, and I had to fight, and then when it didn't work out, why don't they just listen to me?
Right. Like, yes. Okay. That was about
that was
900 really, pages of the 1,000-page book. It was really the
overarching theme of the book. No, Nena's book was great, and I finally read Chris France's Remain in the Light. I really enjoyed that.
That's good too. That's a bitter tome.
Yeah.
It's really good.
That David, baby, that David Byrne.
Yeah. No, but the Cher, as I was telling somebody when I was reading the Cher book, they go, "How is it?" I go, "I'm on the 2nd chapter, and she's already had 5 dads."
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's incredible. Anyway, you wanna wrap a doodle do, my friend? I'm talking to Courtney. You are my friend as well, but Courtney handles. Shawn, thank you so much.
Thank you, Courtney.
You're gonna
Amy.
we're gonna bring you. Who's that guy? Who's the crime? What was that guy that used to do all the crime reporting? Not Matt Taibbi, the good one. Who's the father? The one that we liked. Who is the dad? Who is Matt Taibbi's dad?
I don't know.
You remember he was a crime reporter on CBS News? Or not?
I was never a CBS.
Mike Taibbi. Mike Taibbi.
There you go.
I do know that name. Okay.
Mike Taibbi. You'll be our crime reporter.
Well, Shawn, where are you writing these days? Where can people follow you? And they need to be able to follow all your exploits.
For sure. I am doing a lot of stuff for Complex, so you can always find my bylines there, including, hopefully, if things go well, about Drake tomorrow. Great. So, definitely check me out there. And I am holding on to this sinking ship that is X-Twitter, Zitter, at Same Old Shawn, SHAWN. So you can find me there.
Fabulous. And you know what it is, folks. You hear us here every week on the Pantheon Podcast Network. We're here, you're here. We'll see you next week. Bye, Toodles. Later.